Hello there, this is Benny.
And this is Kyle.
And you're listening to The Doctor's Watcher,
podcast where I watch Doctor Who and I tell you all about it.
Hopefully that's what you're here for, folks. New serial, classic opening.
If you were expecting something else, you might have the wrong podcast.
But we're hoping you'll stick around because Kyle has watched some Doctor Who and he wants to tell you about it.
Indeed, I have and I do.
And this is the part where I usually ask Kyle, hey Kyle, what have you been up to since we last spoke? It's been a little while.
It has. We have had a fairly busy fall this year. So there are several things I could mention that I've been up to. And I will mention the thing that I'm wearing a sweatshirt about.
Nice.
Which is that a couple of weeks ago, my partner and I went to a concert of The Longest Johns.
One of Kyle's favorite bands of all time.
Indeed. I don't remember if I've ever mentioned them on the pod or not. I might not have.
Would it be fair to say that they're your favorite band who's currently putting out music?
Probably, yeah. It's always hard for me to pick a quote-unquote favorite anything.
Yeah, fair. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Favorite music probably also tends to change over time. But yeah, I would say at the moment they are my favorite currently active band.
Excellent.
They do mostly like sea shanties and like work music and like traditional folk type stuff. As well as like writing original songs that are sort of based in or inspired by that genre. Sometimes their original work is like, pretty serious, and sometimes it's pretty humorous and comedic. So yeah, it was a great concert. We had a lot of fun. It was a good time.
So now that you've seen them in person, Kyle, tell us, how long are these Johns?
They are indeed the longest.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's accurate titling then.
Indeed.
Cool. In the meantime, on my end of things, my partner and I have been watching this show called Station 11, which is kind of interesting. So my partner had read the book and therefore was interested in checking it out. And it's kind of like, it's kind of post-apocalyptic. It takes place in several different eras. There's like just before the pandemic, there's like as this pandemic is happening, and then the world after the pandemic. And interestingly, it's not as bleak or, as oppressively violent as some post-apocalyptic stories. There is violence in it. There are certainly people who didn't take the end of the world well, are not, handling it in the most graceful manner. But the story itself is a lot more about kind of resilience and community and finding ways to continue and create hope in this kind of otherwise bleak post-pandemic world. And it's interesting because the book came out before the actual pandemic did, before COVID. Nice. So, it's kind of interesting to see this kind of pre-COVID view of a global pandemic. And then obviously the TV show is made in kind of pandemic world or whatever. So it's an interesting show. I think it's worth checking out if you're interested in this kind of like post-apocalypse what-if type scenario.
Right on. Yeah, that sounds interesting for sure.
Let me actually double-check when the show came out. It did come out after the pandemic, right? Yeah, 2021. That must have been strange.
Yeah, I bet.
The novel was 2014.
Weird to work on.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are weird to work on, we're working on this podcast, and you just watched some new episodes, some new old episodes of Doctor Who.
Shall we discuss Season 4, Episode 5, the 10th Planet, Episode 1?
We shall, and then just occurred to me, I forgot to look up which episode of Star Trek came out just before this one, so hold on one second while I do that.
Cool.
Alright, so it looks like this episode of Doctor Who came out on October 8th, 1966. And on October 6th, 1966, Star Trek The Original Series aired the classic episode The Enemy Within.
Oh, interesting. That was a pretty good one. I don't remember it super well, but I remember that Strange New Worlds had a very direct reference and tie-in to it was it the end of season 1, I think?
I think you might be thinking of the one with the Romulans, you mean?
Yeah, is that not The Enemy Within?
So I think that's Balance of Terror.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The Enemy Within is the one where Kirk gets split into the two Kirks.
Oh,
the good Kirk and the bad Kirk.
Also a good classic.
Very classic, yeah. And if you've ever seen the picture of one of the characters holding this, like, actual real-life dog, but with all this, like, costume on it, has, like, this unicorn horn or something, I think that's from this episode as well.
Nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the unicorn horn dog.
Yes. Very classic. Good stuff.
Indeed. Well, in this post-unicorn horn dog world...
Indeed.
They released an episode of Doctor Who.
Excellent.
Which was written by Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis.
Cool. I think those are new names.
They are. This is their first serial. The two of them together did 3 serials. Although I guess Kit Pedler's uncredited in one of them, apparently.
Oh, come on.
And Jerry Davis did a couple more, one on his own and one with a different writer.
Cool. I guess. Cool. Well, hopefully they do a good job then.
I guess this one, Jerry Davis actually doesn't get on-screen credit until the second half of the serial. But what I read is that Kit Pedler started working on it and then got sick and had to have surgery, and then Jerry Davis helped out. So.
Oh, dang. Well, I mean, I guess it's a good sign that Kit Pedler comes back for a few more. So I guess it wasn't, guess it was okay in the end.
And this serial was directed by Derek Martinez, who also directed Galaxy 4. And he directed the original version of Mission to the Unknown.
That is the original non-recreation version?
And yeah, I guess he's got 3 more serials after this. So
very cool.
He's becoming a Doctor Who regular.
Nice. So Kyle, Doctor Who Season 4, Episode 5, The 10th Planet, Episode 1. Won't you tell us? After a full serial of loose cannon reconstructions for this new serial, first episode, how'd you watch it?
So this episode actually exists.
We're back, baby.
Hooray! It is not on BritBox, however.
Uh-oh. That means the whole serial might not be entirely recovered. Man, you're going to keep us guessing this whole serial, then.
You do have to get creative if you want to watch it.
Y'all don't see the sneaky smile on Kyle's face as he says, get creative there.
There are various different ways of watching it, but I think the easiest way is not necessarily the most legal way.
I think you all heard Kyle say there are many ways of watching it.
Do you recall what our Cliff Dangler was?
I have been eagerly awaiting the opportunity to say this Cliff Dangler because I can do it in 2 words. It's cold.
Indeed. Cold enough that the TARDIS control room is actually getting cold.
It is, in fact, the coldest place in the world. I guess that's more than 2 words, though.
So we actually don't start this episode with the cliff dingler at all. It leaves us dingling for a bit.
Uh-oh. I hope they don't leave us on this cliff too long, because my arms are getting tired and I'm in dangling.
Yeah, and it is very cold here on this cliff. The very first thing we see, actually, is a rocket launch. And this rocket, flies up into the air.
Nice.
And then we cut to a mission control sort of room.
So this rocket, would you say that this is stock footage? Is it a model? Did they build an actual full-size rocket for Doctor Who on their 1966 budget? Fire it into space?
I'm thinking either that or stock footage.
I see. Probably that one then.
Uh-huh. So we cut to this mission control type of room. It's at a place called Snowcap.
Cool.
And Snowcap is communicating with this rocket that we just saw launch, which is called s04e05.
Nice.
Apparently
I hope they do better than the other 3 Zeuses.
Uh-huh. Apparently the launch was pretty normal. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. And the astronauts on s04e05 comment on the weather at Snowcap. They can see the weather as they fly over. And Barkley at Snowcap is yeah, it's totally a blizzard and an 8-force wind and shit here.
Not just a cute name then.
Uh-huh. s04e05 confirms their velocity for Snowcap, and Snowcap starts transmitting data to it. Everything seems very normal and by the books and everything.
Cool. We like data. Keep transmitting it, please.
Uh-huh. It's probably worth mentioning, because I think this is probably relatively unusual to see on the BBC at the time, that the 2 astronauts aboard s04e05, one of them is actually played by a black actor from Bermuda.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully his name isn't Bermuda.
No,
if you remember our last serial.
Right, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was even another, sailor or 2 who were named after a place.
I wonder if someone wrote in and was well, congratulations on having your first black character. I have some notes. And they were okay, hold on. We can do better.
Yeah, I think this guy was named Williams, so...
Okay, an improvement.
Uh-huh. The next scene, the camera starts out focused on a bunch of photographs of women in bikinis. And these photos are all stuck up on the wall. And
so what you're saying is this is an alien movie, and this is how they established that the crew of the spaceship are blue collar.
We pan past the presumed owner of these photographs, which is a stereotypically Italian person.
Okay.
And he's wearing a military type uniform. He's relaxing on his bunk, and he's reading a comic book, and he's kind of quietly singing to himself. He's singing that most famous stereotypically Italian bit of opera, the one that's da 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 da.
Oh yes. Just to leave no doubt.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure Italians just sing that song to themselves 24/7.
Uh-huh. Just kind of under their breath all the time.
Yeah, when they're not ordering pizza, or I guess if they're Italian American, then talking mob stuff. This isn't, I hope the listeners know that I'm just referencing the stereotypes as we see in media. This isn't me, y'all. Don't cancel me.
So the camera pans past him and over to his sergeant, who is looking through a periscope, it looks like, and talking about how all he sees is snow. And we then cut to the outside.
Is it a snow submarine?
Basically, yeah.
Marine.
Yeah, we cut outside and we see like the periscope, which is basically, a big pipe sticking up out of the ground with a camera on the end of it.
Cool.
And yeah, it seems to be like an underground base. The area, sure enough, as the sergeant kind of referred to, is basically just a big snowy field. There's kind of like mountainous terrain in the background.
Sounds cold, but is it the coldest place in the world?
Good question. The periscope kind of looks around the area, and it happens to be looking in the wrong direction to see the TARDIS when it materializes.
That answers my question.
We cut to inside the TARDIS, where Polly and Ben have apparently been to the wardrobe, and they found coats and hats and stuff.
Cute.
Hey, Doctor, you've got the most fantastic wardrobe.
Yes, well, I'm glad you approve, my child.
It's gorgeous. Where do you shop? Carnaby Street?
Yes. On Planet's Carnaby 5. I don't know.
Uh-huh. So everyone's all set in their winter attire and everything. The Doctor presses the button to open the TARDIS door, and we cut to the outside, where we see Polly and Ben step out of the TARDIS. They start looking around and very quickly notice a bunch of equipment poking up out of the ground, including the periscope.
Cool.
And, there's also like antennas and other stuff like that. The periscope is still kind of turning around and scanning the area. And underground in the base, the sergeant, looking through the periscope, calls over to the Italian guy, Tito, and calls him to come look. Tito doesn't really give a shit. He's, reading this comic book until the sergeant mentions that there's a woman, and then Tito rushes over and takes a look.
Oh, man, I hope we're not going to need to have a content warning on one of these episodes.
Uh-huh.
Mamma mia, Bellissima!
Yeah, that seems in character.
Uh-huh. The sergeant gets back on the periscope and looks around a bit more, and he sees the TARDIS, which he calls
some kind of a hut.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's, completely out of context, so...
I was wondering for this Italian character, I wonder if the director just kept being like, no, we really want to make sure the audience knows he's Italian. You just got to play it up. And, it's probably some dude from, like, London being like, all right, I'll do what I can. Mamma mia. No, more. Mamma mia.
That said, I think there's at least like one or two American characters in this serial, and they actually had really good American accents. Like I haven't done the research yet, but I think they might legitimately be American actors.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I might be wrong, but I would guess that this is not an Italian actor.
So we cut back to the surface, where a hatch opens up and a bunch of guards come pouring out of it.
Oh, all right.
The Doctor has joined Pollen on the surface by now, and the three of them are just like, well, guess we should probably go with the guards.
Yeah.
So the guards escort them all through the hatch into the underground base, which they learn is the South Pole base of International Space Command.
South Pole Earth? I mean, technically every planet would have a South Pole, right?
It's true. They seem to be on Earth as far as we can tell so far.
All right. I'm just thinking of the name of the serial, which I know our heroes don't know. So I'll put a pin in that one.
I wonder if the DM told the players the name of the module yet.
Sometimes you don't want your players to prepare too much, because then they'll be like, oh, we Go to the store and buy some cold weather gear. No reason.
Uh-huh. The sergeant, of course, wants to know how they got there and everything. And...
Well, you see that hut?
Uh-huh. He doesn't believe them when Polly tells him that they came in a sort of a spaceship. Tito calls General Cutler's office on the phone, but the general's not there at his office, and then the general walks through the door into the base.
That's convenient.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was really great timing on his part.
Yeah.
He's like, who the fuck are these people? And Ben's like...
Able Seaman Ben Jackson, sir, Royal Navy.
And Cutler asks him why he's not with his ship, and he's like, it's complicated.
I do still intend to go back at some point.
Uh-huh. The general says that he doesn't have time to deal with them now. And the doctor's like,
I don't like your tone, sir.
And I don't like your face, nor your hair. Sergeant, bring him into tracking and put him under guard in the observation room.
He doesn't like his hair? Rude.
Yeah, I guess he thinks the doctor's like a long-haired hippie or something.
Well, he does have kind of an old school haircut.
So that happens. They get brought into tracking and placed under guard in the observation room.
Would that be the Doctler ship?
Smashing! It looks just like that rocket place in America.
Yeah, but I wonder why there's so few people. I mean, it's not like what you see on the telly, is it?
Well, for one thing, it's on the South Pole.
Uh-huh.
That might have something to do with it.
We're also working on a budget here, Ben. We can't hire too many
true.
extras.
Very true.
They chat a bit with the sergeant, who explains that General Cutler doesn't like a large staff. He basically just like overworks everyone instead. But this is basically fine because they're only stationed at this base for a few months at a time anyway.
I hope they get overtime.
Yeah. The doctor notices a calendar on the wall indicating that it is currently December of 1986.
Oh, the future.
Uh-huh. Of course,
20 years in the future.
Ben and Polly are like, oh shit, it's not our home time. Like, they kind of thought maybe they could get home from the South Pole.
All right, yeah,
but
fair.
That's not going to happen. Ben wonders if they've sent people to the moon yet. And the sergeant's like, yeah, duh, some people just came back from the moon, you fucking idiots.
For the first time?
That was unclear if it was sort of a routine thing or if this was like a first.
All right, that would be an interesting kind of prediction to make.
Uh-huh. Before too long, though, their conversation is interrupted by an error with Zeus 4.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
I guess it's not as normal as we thought.
Uh-huh. Its height should be 980 miles, but it's actually 1,100 miles.
Well, I guess it's better to be too high up than not high enough if you're in a rocket, but you probably don't want to do either one, really.
Yeah. We cut up to Zeus 4, where Snowcap asks them to take some visual checks on Mars to basically like establish and confirm their position. Williams says that, you know, they should be able to see Mars at about 420. But,
Blaze it.
But when Schultz looks through the ship's telescope, he doesn't see it at 420. He sees it at 432.
Edible it? I don't know. Yeah, but I wonder, like, if in this alternate future, instead of, you know, in addition to astronaut ice cream, you also have, like, astronaut edibles. Random thought.
That'd be
Please
pretty
continue,
fun.
Kyle.
Williams is like, are you sure, dude? So Schultz double checks, and when he double checks, he realizes that it's not actually Mars that he's seeing at 432.
There's another planet out there.
Another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Here's something. Can't see properly, but it reads as if it was an orbit between Mars and Venus.
Yeah, that's it. Somehow I can't put my finger on it, but it looks kind of familiar.
Yeah.
Would that bring us up to a total of 10 planets?
It just might, because this is when Pluto is considered a planet.
Ah, yes.
I still consider Pluto to be a planet.
Well, I'll send you a music video by Tom Cardy then. That might help you accept the fact that it is not.
Pluto's not a planet. Do you think that Pluto gives a shit? Pluto is not gonna quit, cause Pluto can take a hit, and Pluto knows what Pluto is, and Pluto knows that Pluto's hot shit.
I hope you're enjoying this episode, so I'll keep this mid-roll short so you can get back to it. If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a review and a rating and tell a friend. And now back to the Doctor's Watcher.
They tried talking to Snowcap again, but Snowcap can barely hear them, even though their power output is up. Down at Snowcap, the Doctor writes something down on a piece of paper, and he tries telling the General that he thinks he knows what they're going to see. The General's not really interested in paying attention to the Doctor. And one of the Snowcap guys, Barkley, I think, takes the Doctor's paper and just kind of like shoves it into his pocket.
What's a Dalek?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, does the Doctor seem kind of nervous at this point, or anxious?
Yeah, he really wants to like get some information to Snowcap, and they're just not interested in hearing it.
Uh-huh.
He gets like hustled away from the General, and meanwhile Snowcap is now seeing this new planet that Zeus 4 saw. They're, confirming Zeus 4's reports.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to think that this new planet must have influenced Zeus 4's orbit somehow. And
I guess if its gravity is sufficient?
Yeah. So they figure they probably just need to get Zeus 4 down. Like, we need to do an emergency splashdown.
Yeah, guys, there's a whole different planet up there. And that seems like a good reason to call this one done.
Better just come on home.
Yeah.
So they tell this plan to Zeus 4 and send, updated coordinates and whatever. So Zeus 4 starts firing their thrusters, following their new instructions. But somehow this puts them into a spin.
Uh-oh. The pull of the planet is getting stronger.
Uh-huh. Schultz tries to use the manual controls to correct it, but for some reason that is not really clear, he and Williams are both like really exhausted, and it takes both of them working together to be able to like pull the lever to manually fire the thrusters or whatever.
Uh-oh. There's more at play here than we thought.
It's increasing and something's happened to our limbs. We're both finding great difficulty in moving.
Well, you've been up there a fair time. It's probably just space fatigue.
No, it's quite different. We had to operate the manual controls together. Neither of us could have done it alone.
Neither of us could have done it alone as they gaze into each other's eyes, hands still on the lever, and the Shuliums.
The Zeus 4 is renamed the Shuliliums. Is that what it was?
That's even better. I just said Shuliums, but I like Shuliliums more.
So they want Snowcap to bring them in, but Snowcap's like, no, we can't do that for whatever reason. You guys need to like do it yourselves. And they realize that they're in the wrong position again. The Sholiliums is not where it is expected to be after this burn. They are swinging out again, and they need new flight path corrections urgently.
Yeah, because at this time, I think the rockets would have assumed that the rockets required the supercomputers back on Earth to do their calculations for them. Right,
yeah. So yeah, Snowcap gets to work on that to make their new calculations. They figure that, it must be the new planet's gravity affecting affecting Sholiliums.
There we go.
They get a look at the new planet on the observation room monitors in the Snowcap base, and it very clearly is the Earth but upside down.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just,
do they comment on that, or are they like, wow, what an interesting planet?
Well, they're all like, this looks vaguely familiar. I don't really recognize this, but I feel like I've seen it before, and like that sort of thing.
I like how this is the sort of thing that for the little kids who are watching, they can be like telling their TV sets, no, it's the Earth, look.
Yeah, totally. They do finally figure out, like, this looks like the Earth.
Yeah, you think that people, astronauts would be used to seeing the Earth from different angles, because it's not like they're constantly looking at maps. If you're in space, seriously, you can look down and see the Earth.
The doctor is like, dude, check out that piece of paper that I gave you earlier. And we, the viewers, don't actually get to see what's written on the paper. Mm-hmm. But Barclay's like, oh, you totally knew, and asks the doctor to explain. So the doctor starts to explain that Earth had a twin planet millions of years ago.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And this explanation is immediately cut off in disbelief.
I wonder if it's an evil twin. And if it is, can you imagine the, synchronicity that this episode came out right after The Enemy Within on Star Trek?
Yeah, seriously.
That kind of rules.
We've got a good and evil Kirk and now a good and evil Earth.
Yeah.
The doctor tells Pollen that he's worried because he knows what this planet means to Earth, which is...
Well, that pretty soon we shall be having visitors.
Uh-oh.
Meanwhile, General Cutler gets the General Secretary of International Space Command on the phone.
Cool. That sounds like someone you'd want to tell, yeah.
Mr. Wigner is this General Secretary.
Okay.
And he tells him about the new planet. He also tells him that the Snowcap base has visitors who he has not had a chance to interrogate yet.
But he's clearly eager to. Especially that old guy.
Yeah, the old guy. I want to
teach him a thing or two. I want to get him in line.
He does mention that one of these visitors seems to know a lot about this new planet.
Maybe suspiciously a lot.
Cutler goes and starts asking the doctor about how he really came here. And the doctor says that it'll be difficult to explain, and that they should just, let them return to where they came from.
And GTFO.
Yeah, it's the doctor trying to GTFO this time. Cutler's not going to let that happen, though. He says they're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets the sergeant on the intercom and orders him to go search the hut.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird that they haven't done it yet. And, General Cutler was also kind of annoyed that they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, no one takes initiative around here. They're like, but we're soldiers. We need orders.
So we cut to the outside where we actually see that a flying saucer is landing nearby.
Okay, I guess that they're getting visitors.
And then we see Tito and the sergeant come up out of the hatch into the outside. They don't see the flying saucer. I guess it's in the other direction or whatever.
Uh-oh.
The sergeant goes over to the TARDIS and tries the door, which of course doesn't open. And he tells Tito to go get a welding torch and some help. He thinks that's how they're going to get into the TARDIS.
Good luck with that.
So Tito heads back into the base, and while Tito's gone, 3 humanoid figures approach the sergeant.
All right. They're not like rolling salt shaker type figures.
No, these are definitely humanoid. They are pretty tall. They are either wearing metallic suits or they're metallic themselves. That was not entirely clear.
Oh dear. Do we get a good look at them at this point, or are they mostly like in silhouette or something?
At this point, they're mostly in silhouette.
Okay.
We can see that they have these sort of round, like drum-like things on their front, like around their midsection area.
Huh.
And they have sort of like metallic crests on their heads.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, we...
kind of antenna-like. They meet above the head.
Something like that, yeah.
Uh-oh.
But we don't really get a good look at them yet.
And the words on the screen say?
Oh, not quite.
Okay. Oh, then the guy turns around and screams, and then the words on the screen say.
The sergeant starts shouting at them, and they don't really react to this at all. They just keep approaching. So he draws his gun and fires it twice, but that also has no effect. Like, they don't really react to that either.
Uh-oh.
And the lead creature raises its arm and hits the sergeant in the neck, and he collapses.
Okay. Not a very sci-fi way of taking a guy out, but seems to be effective, so who am I to criticize?
Back inside the base, Tito and Joe are ready to head out with the welding torch, and they do.
Guys, I think you may find that there's a new priority now. Although who knows, maybe the welding torch will have more luck than the gun.
At first, they see a figure standing at the TARDIS with its back to them. It's wearing the sergeant's coat.
Oh, creepy.
But, of course, as they approach, it turns out to be one of these creatures, and we do get a good look at it this time. We can see that the crest thing on its head is 2, like, metal pipes kind of going up from the ear areas of the head, and the pipes kind of both bend toward the center and connect to sort of a device that's like on top of their head. And their faces seem to be like featureless masks, basically, with round holes for the eyes and just kind of a slit for the mouth.
Kind of like an evil C-3PO?
Kind of, yeah. And their hands are actually very human-looking as they stick out from what now seems to be probably metallic suits of some sort.
Interesting. Also possibly a sign that they ran out of budget or ideas.
And as we get a good look at them, the camera just kind of focuses on this creature's featureless mask of a face. Music.
And then the words on the screen say...
Yep. The words on the screen say Doctor Who, William Hartnell, General Cutler, Robert Beatty.
Nice. So earlier when I said that we might get Daleks, seems I was guessing the wrong classic Doctor Who villain.
Indeed.
And if anyone's listening to this podcast without having seen any modern Who or any other Who, I guess we'll have to stay tuned to find out what these creatures are called. what these men are called.
Yeah, it's interesting because of course, like the Daleks, their design has, changed somewhat over the years. It's like still the same idea, but, different executions.
Which is always so interesting. I think that's one of the things I kind of really respect about Doctor Who is that they keep these old designs from like the 60s.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously you do have to update them. But it must be such a tough job to have because it's like you can only push it so far before people start to not like it anymore and they get like nostalgia, like, oh, this isn't a real Dalek anymore, or oh, this isn't a real Cyberman, or whatever, or whatever it should happen to be.
Whatever these creatures are.
Yeah, I just think that they're probably men and they seem to be kind of cyber. I mean, I don't know. What would you call that?
But yeah, so it's fun. And like this original design, is somewhat simplistic, especially compared to like modern incarnations, but it's actually like pretty creepy. Like the faces are pretty weird, and yeah, it's a fun design. I like it. Nice.
So did you have any notes for us, Kyle, other than how creepy their faces are?
Yeah, I didn't mention this at the top of the episode, but they're getting fancy with the title screens in this serial.
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah. At the start of the episode, we see like the usual sequence that shows when the music plays. And then before we see the episode name, there's a moment where like a bunch of letters, which are N's, X's, O's, and Z's, all like very quickly scroll across the screen horizontally in, sort of a computery type fashion. And then like the title scrolls onto the screen. And then
I wonder why N, X, O, and Z.
Yeah, I think maybe just
other than an N being kind of like a Z on its side. Yeah.
Might just be like how they look. But yeah, so that was interesting. And then they do it again, like basically in between every screen of the closing credits. The closing credits have previously usually been like a vertical scroll, but this time they're like a bunch of still frames, and we get these like scrolling letters in between each one.
Interesting. I was going to say, isn't it strange that they decided to do that in the second serial of the season, but then I was also thinking, well, if they had done it for the first serial, would we know? Maybe they did.
Yeah, it is entirely possible.
Well, cool. Did you have any more notes, Kyle?
Nope, just that.
In that case, we'd like to thank Circuits23 for the awesome theme music that he made for us. You can find him on SoundCloud as well as Bandcamp. And if you want to tell him how awesome you think his music is, you can write him at circuit.23@gmail.com. I'd like to thank Kyle for watching Doctor Who and telling me all about it.
And thank you to Benny for listening to me talk all about Doctor Who.
And thank you, listeners, for listening to me and listening to Kyle talk about Doctor Who. We'd love to hear from you. You can always write to us at thedoctorswatcher@gmail.com or tweet us at DrWatcher.
Indeed.
I'm just going to say tweet. You can tweet us. You can still tweet us. We can both call it, we can all just pretend it's a tweet.
Indeed. I consider tweet to be a generic verb now.
Yes. I'll tweet you on Tumblr. I sent you a tweet via phone. I don't know. Anywho, yeah, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you want to help the show grow. And the best way to get us more listeners is to tell a friend. So if you have a friend who is a nerd, tell them to listen to the Doctor's Watcher.
Indeed.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks, listeners.
Bye.
Bye.
Come and have a look at these land masses.
Land masses? I don't see. I see what you mean.
Now, doesn't that remind you of anything,
Remind? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, looks familiar somehow.
Yes. Hey, Ben, look, that bit looks just like Malaysia.
Ah, give over. No, hang on. Isn't that... Well, it looks like South America, but it can't be, though.
But there is a similarity.
Nonsense, how could there be?
This is unbelievable. That's surely Africa.
Yes, certainly, and that is Malaysia.
Ridiculous. There must be some reflection of Earth.
No, it can't be. There's nothing to reflect on.
And now, my dear Dr. Barclay, I suggest you look at that piece of paper I gave you.
Paper? Oh, yes.
You knew.